In 2001, Halliburton received a no-bid government contract worth $39.5 billion, awarded by an administration led by a man who had been Halliburton's own CEO just 18 months earlier, and not one person went to prison. They knew, and they buried it. So why has no one ever told you the full story? For decades, Halliburton sold itself as the backbone of American energy. The rough and ready company that built pipelines, drilled wells, and kept the lights on. Founded in 1919, it wore the image of an industrial patriot. It fed soldiers. It rebuilt nations. When America went to war, Halliburton was there, boots on the ground, flag on the truck. That reputation was worth something. It was also a very useful shield. Here is what that shield was hiding. In 1995, a man named Dick Cheney left the Pentagon, where he had served as Secretary of Defense, and walked directly into the CEO chair at Halliburton. For 5 years, he ran the company. He expanded it, restructured it, made it one of the largest government contractors on the planet. Then, in January 2001, he became Vice President of the United States. 18 months later, in the chaos after September 11th, Halliburton's subsidiary KBR received a 10-year, no-bid contract, meaning no other company was allowed to compete. The contract was called LOGCAPIII. It covered logistics support for the entire United States Army. The value, $39.5 billion. The competitive bidding normally required by law, waived. The man sitting a heartbeat from the presidency had just handed his former company the largest service contract in the history of the United States military. The Pentagon's own watchdog flagged it immediately. An Army Corps of Engineers official named Bunatine Greenhouse, people called her Bunny, submitted formal written objections. She said the no-bid extension was, in her professional judgment, the most blatant and improper contract abuse I have witnessed in 20 years. She put her name on it. They demoted her. The investigation that followed went nowhere near anyone with real power. The contract held. Halliburton kept the money. Cheney, the sitting vice president, still held stock options in the company worth millions. His office disclosed them, and then nothing happened. What they buried wasn't the contract itself. The contract was technically public. What they buried was the sequence, the waived rules, the silenced watchdog. Because laid out in order, it looked like something else entirely. But that's not even the part they really didn't want out. While KBR billed the U.S. government for feeding soldiers in Iraq, auditors found the company had overcharged the military $61 million for fuel alone, imported from Kuwait at inflated prices through a subcontractor KBR had quietly selected themselves. The Defense Contract Audit Agency recommended the Pentagon withhold payment. The Pentagon paid anyway. Then there was Nigeria. From 1994 to 2004, a decade running directly through Cheney's tenure as CEO, Halliburton participated in a scheme to pay $180 million in bribes to Nigerian government officials in exchange for $6 billion in liquefied natural gas contracts. The bribery ran through a Paris-based consortium, shell companies, wire transfers, layers of insulation between the decisions and the signatures. In 2009, KBR's former CEO Albert Jack Stanley pleaded guilty. He admitted the bribes were paid. He admitted he knew. He received 7 years probation and a fine. Dick Cheney, who led Halliburton for 5 of those 10 bribery years, was questioned by Nigerian authorities in 2010. Charges were eventually dropped after Halliburton paid a $35 million settlement. No U.S. charges, no trial. $35 million is a rounding error on $6 billion. Here is why no one paid. The system that prosecutes this kind of conduct is the same system that benefits from it. The Pentagon needed Halliburton. The war needed contractors. The contractors needed the contracts. And at the top of the food chain sat a man whose former employer was cashing the checks. The Department of Justice opened inquiries. Committees held hearings. None of it produced a single criminal charge against a senior Halliburton executive for what happened in Iraq. The Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, The law designed exactly for Nigeria produced fines against the company, not prison for the architects. Corporate fines are math. Prison is consequence. They got math. Bunny Greenhouse eventually settled her whistleblower lawsuit, quietly, terms undisclosed. Halliburton moved its corporate headquarters to Dubai in 2007. That's not a metaphor, that's just what they did. The revolving door between government and defense contractors spins faster now than it did in 2001. The legal framework that let a sitting vice president hold stock options in a company receiving no-bid wartime contracts, that framework is still intact. Nothing was reformed. Nobody went to prison. The war ended. The money stayed. So here is the question they were never made to answer. If the second most powerful office in the United States government can direct $39.5 billion toward its own former employer in wartime, with the oversight official demoted for objecting, what exactly is the rule that prevents it from happening right now? Because there isn't one.